Hello, it is Sunday the 15th of December and we're heading into the Asian trading on the Sunday night open, ahead of Monday trading. Now this week, there's quite a lot going on. We've got quite a lot of central banks this week. We've got the Fed on Wednesday, and then we've got the Bank of Japan and the Bank of England on Thursday. But normally those kind of events, they might cause a little bit of volatility in the crypto market, but they're not really that important. I think the most important thing on the calendar this week is options expiration. And options expiration wouldn't normally affect Bitcoin or crypto, but now that we've got this massive ETF market, which really is huge, plus we've got MicroStrategy, which is becoming now just being included in the NASDAQ and just is becoming a bigger and bigger company, and I think it's going to continue, then the options expiration is going to be quite important. And the main reason is that there are options offered on the Bitcoin ETFs. There's been an application for the ETH ETFs that the SEC are considering, but this is going to be the first expiration month for options on the Bitcoin ETFs, and the biggest one of those, of course, is IBIT, which IBIT was launched in January, obviously, and since then the volume of trading in it has been just monstrous. It's eclipsed 100 million shares traded twice this year already, which puts it in the same kind of camp in terms of volume as the S&P 500 ETF, which is really, the SPY is really widely traded. So why does that matter for options? Well, the ETFs are really good, clean ways to trade Bitcoin. It's 100% Bitcoin, nothing else, and it's a really kind of clean way to get exposure to the daily movement of Bitcoin. I think it's a really bad choice, for longer term holding, mainly because you pay so much in fees. You pay 2.5% a year to BlackRock just to have your Bitcoin with them. But the most important thing is, so if you trade gold or the S&P or any other market and you want to hedge in options, the cheapest options are not the options on the commodity gold, but the cheapest way to trade those options for most institutional markets are the options on the ETF. They tend to be much better and easier and cheaper to trade, which potentially makes the options on these ETFs really big. Now this is the first month, and I don't know if it's going to take off straight away, but when I look at the volume that we have done in Bitcoin ETFs this month, the inflows, and the massive move in MicroStrategy, potentially we could see some moves around the options expiration this week. Now at the moment there aren't that many choices. I think there are only 9 options or something, and they're monthly options at the moment. Eventually we might get to weekly options, but what tends to happen, particularly I think all the dealers or the market makers, the people who sell the options, are long gamma, which tends to mean that we get a big resistance level that tends to hold, or they will pin it in a price range, which I think is what we have seen. So I'm going to be very interested to see if Bitcoin makes a move. I expect us to be pinned at this price or within a range this week. And I'm going to be very interested to see if we make a move when those options expire, which is on Friday, the 20th. What happens after that, to me, is going to be very interesting. It's not just, a lot of people could use these options to hedge. It's not just people trading the ETFs or have Bitcoin positions, but in MicroStrategy as well. These convertible bonds that MicroStrategy issues are really heavily traded instruments. They're not, you don't buy them and hold. They are trading, a really good way to get leveraged trading instruments in Bitcoin without the kind of downside risk of buying, a 3 times leveraged ETF, with all the fees with it. And so as Bitcoin becomes more and more mainstream and more institutions trade it, then these things on the mainstream calendar could be quite important turning points for Bitcoin. So I expect to see it pinned at the moment. At the moment, they were really strong. Here we are in the daily chart, up at the highs. We are trading above this kind of 102 fib level, although we are really in the big sideways range of the Thursday the 5th volatile move when we first tested these highs. For me though, if we can hold and find support from this 102,500 level, I think that we could continue high. And if we take a look on a lower time frame, you'll see what I mean. Every time we came up to this level, we were sold, and now we have popped above it on Sunday. Sometimes I see Sunday moves as kind of false breakouts. And so I'm going to be really interested to see if this 102 level holds on a pullback retest. If it does, I think we could attempt to move higher. But I'm feeling like more likely this week is going to be whiplash movement, you know, back and forward and keeping us in a trading range. So that means for me, you know, buying breakouts is not the best strategy in a sideways range. It's much more profitable to buy dips and not try and, you know, blast it on the top. So that's what I'm looking for, and I'm watching to see if this 102 levels holds as support in Bitcoin, and if we are going to continue higher from there. And if we do, I'm looking for 105 and 115. But you know, if we break out of this range that the market makers have been trying to keep us in, really kind of since the start of December, then we could see quite a strong move. When we could see some chasing of the market, it could get volatile. But yeah, I'm unfortunately leaning towards some whiplash price action. And pretty much every other crypto chart that I look at, every kind of good trade setup that I've looked at in the last couple of days has not gone. You know, it's triggered so far and then it's gone all the way back and reverted to mean. And it feels like everything is doing the same choppy sideways pattern. December can be quite a miserable trading month, and that for that kind of price action. And that does seem to be how it's playing out. If we take a look, for example, at ETH, I was thinking on lower time frames over the weekend that we could see a little bit of a squeeze. Everybody's talking about this massive short position in ETH, and I was expecting a retest of the highs. And instead, here we are pinned again in this horrible sideways trading range. And you know, when you can draw a flag or pennant pattern like this, quite often with these pennant patterns, they end up being a bigger bear flag. So again, I really can't say this enough. I think buying pullbacks in this market rather than breakouts with these mean reversions that we've been seeing is a better one. And I think that this is going to be one of those weeks where you kind of need to let it calm down and set up really and trade carefully. I really do feel better opportunities are coming in January, and this month is going to be tricky. And if we do get some really good opportunities, it's more likely to be at the end of the month and after the Deribit options expire on the 27th. So sideways, and I potentially see another swing lower and a in this ETH at the moment as well. Really no trend, there's no setup here unless we break out from this sideways consolidation. And that most of the major are all doing the same thing. You know, when I look at them, like for example, this ADA, I feel like we're in a sideways wave 4. So if we count from the August low, which is pretty much where everything in the market made a low, we've made a wave 1, 2, 3, and we're in a sideways wave 4, which can be really choppy. And yeah, just don't let it catch you out. I'm going to make a separate altcoin video. I just want to talk about what's coming for the bigger markets this week. One that's been really underperforming, not quite sure why, is Solana. And here, if we look at this on the weekly, what we have done is we've lost this weekly 20 moving average. I think we're in a big wave 4 here. But if we look again at Solana from the lows that we made in 2022, this was our wave 1, 2, big wave 3, wave 4, and we're in a wave 5. And here's the problem with the wave 5. So in a normal trending market or in a wave 3, you will have a big trendy move like this and the pullbacks don't overlap each other. When you get into a wave 5, you can get nasty, choppy, ending diagonal overlapping wave price action, which is what I think we are seeing here in Solana, because I really did not think that we would break these highs that we made in March around that 204 level, which brings us now looking lower from here towards, this is Sol against ETH, but actually let's put it Sol against dollar, because I was looking for a Solana revival against ETH. And so here we are sideways. This 204 level is holding at the moment. But again, we're in this choppy, overlapping pullback. And we may not hold this 204 level. We could see a bigger pullback than this. I apologize for showing you that Solana ETH chart. This is a Solana dollar chart. So sideways, no breakout from this correction. I'm interested to see what happens if we do retest 204, or potentially, you know, we could find support from here at this week daily 50 moving average. It was certainly support when we tried last week, and it was support when we last tried at the beginning of November as well. So sideways in so many markets at the moment. One that I do want to look at, that I keep looking at, is ETH against Bitcoin, because everybody talks about, is that coming? Is there going to be a change? Is ETH going to start playing some catch up? If we look at big picture ETH Bitcoin, I'm going to go to the monthly, not minute, monthly. If we look at where we are on the monthly, from the lows that we made in 2019, we made a lovely 5-wave rally here, all the way up to the highs in 2021, and then this lovely correction. The problem is we're making one of those corrections where the first swing was very simple, and this C leg, if you like, is a really long declining wedge. And the problem with these really long declining wedges is you haven't kind of bottomed until you actually do break out. I think we are potentially, now if I look at fib retracers, I had been thinking that this low here at 0.03 and the 786 fib may be a support that we could bounce from, and we've, you know, if I look at it on the weekly, we bounced pretty nicely, but once again we failed at this weekly 20 moving average, and it's one of those levels where you kind of need to see a bigger bottoming pattern, and I would be much happier with a higher low or a retest. So we can say at the moment, although we had a nice bounce whilst Bitcoin hit that big resistance the last couple of weeks, we haven't actually reversed the downtrend. We're still in a downtrend in ETH against Bitcoin, and potentially, you know, we could go lower. I'm looking to see what happens when we retest the lows. If we do, and if we blast out of that, above that 100,000 level in Bitcoin, this could definitely head lower. So not the bottoming pattern that we need to see yet, unfortunately, in ETH. So nice try, not quite there yet. Lower time frames, just sideways. You know, whenever you're moving averages, like your daily moving averages like we've got here, end up going flat. They're completely horizontal, just like we did in June. You're not going anywhere. You're going sideways in a sideways range, and you kind of need to wait for that to play out. And again, I really do feel like we're in a buy dip market. If we were to make a very nice 3-wave correction here, halfway back, an equal measured move, that would be pretty nice look. That would mean somewhere around 0.036. But when I look at this 786 fib down here, I don't feel like we didn't quite tag it. And it's very common in crypto, you know, to retest levels and make a higher high or a lower low. I think if we did that and we held the support here at 0.031, it might be a good time to start scaling from Bitcoin into ETH. But at the moment, the chart just isn't saying it's ready or it's done it yet or we've bottomed. So not there yet.